think the RBI will at some point have to start a gradual normalization process, but it'll be very gradual, is my sense, simply because, GDP growth will, they know about the medium-term scars, that the pandemic may leave behind in terms of informality and so on and so forth. My sense is they'll start towards the last quarter of this calendar year by draining out some of the super excess liquidity in the system. Some of the rate hikes, however, will follow only next year in 2022. So a very gradual normalization, but a normalization which will begin later this calendar year.
But we haven't seen much coming from the RBI by way of communication for that. In fact, I'll play out a soundbite from my interview last week with the Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Mr. Shaktikanta Das. This is what he told me about the normalization process and the prospects of a rate hike. Pranjul.
All our action will be calibrated. I mean, they will be well-timed, they will be cautious, and they will be well-calibrated, keeping in mind aspects like what you are mentioning. We don't want to give any sudden shock or any sudden surprise to the markets.
Does it seem like the market is prepared for this normalization process and the sequence of it?
Look, I think so. I don't grudge the governor with those comments. The truth is that they have done a lot over the last year. They have been the main game in town in some sense. And they don't want just, by making a few comments here and there, spoil all the benefits and all the support they gave to GDP growth recovery over the last 24 months. So I hear from where he's coming, but at the same time, inflation remains elevated. It's likely to be more than 4%, which is their target over the foreseeable future. It's already been higher than 4% for the last 22 months. And I think the RBI understands that. In fact, in the MPC minutes, we saw that, there were a few dissenting voices. Some of the members are talking about likely exit process, and I think it's going to come in very gradually. They don't want to roil markets, but they'll do it very gradually. And I think draining out excess liquidity is the right way to go about it.
Yeah, and I think that's what other central banks are also doing right now. First, essentially looking at liquidity withdrawal. Finally, Pranjul, before we wrap up, stagflation as a risk. At a time when there's so much concern around inflation, can economic activity sustain at a level where inflation feeds growth, or could it be counterproductive?
Yeah, look, I don't want to use the term stagflation because, it's a very scary word, rising inflation, falling growth. I don't really think we are there. Look, inflation is elevated, but it's still under 6%, the RBI's upper tolerance limit, and it's not ratcheting up. It's in fact forecasted to come down a little bit. And growth, it's rebounding. In fact, we think the next couple of quarters will be very positive as vaccination rates rise and sequential recovery becomes stronger. So, I won't use the word stagflation right now for the Indian economy.